I had an emotional moment over the weekend where I literally broke down crying because I think I want to be a dad.
Really?
Now, if you're new to our show, I don't have a wife. I don't have a girlfriend.
Yeah.
Okay? Like,
Welcome.
I got no kids. I got nothing. I got nothing of the foundation to actually be a father right now.
And up until this point, the conversations, at least our personal conversations about you having kids, have not really been in the like positive or kind of you just kind of more reservations.
I was always like, if it happened, it happened, and like it is what it is.
Yeah.
And like at this point, my wife and I, we thought my ex-wife, I should say, we thought we were gonna have kids, then we just didn't. And I was like, I'm 40 almost. Like, what am I gonna do now? You know what I mean? So over the weekend, I was in New York, and this is like such a weird freaking moment. So I went to see the music Waitress, and I just saw it here a couple of weeks ago because it was here, but I went to see it in New York again. And I felt a little emotional after it, and I couldn't really figure out why. So I went back and I saw it again over the weekend in New York, and I was like, oh my God. The second, and this is going to be kind of a spoiler alert a little bit.
Yeah, because for those of us who have never even seen the musical or don't know anything about it.
Basically, it's a woman that's in a really bad abusive relationship, and she gets pregnant, so she feels like she can't leave her husband. And then she realizes at the end when she has the baby that she doesn't need anybody but herself and the baby just to keep herself safe, leaves the husband. Spoiler alert, there you go. You saw the whole musical. But there's a song at the end where she sees the baby for the very first time. And like...
This is the song, you're crying. You're like melting in the theater.
Melting.
Were you by yourself or were you with your friends?
That was my friends.
Okay.
Even worse,
Yeah,
right?
you're just like...
Literally,
are you sitting in the middle or on the side? You're like in the middle of your two friends?
Totally. Bawling my eyes out. The second that
having a moment.
She laid eyes on her baby, and she's like singing about how her life has completely changed. It was almost like 20 years of conversations I've heard in my head about like having kids.
Yeah.
All started wrapping together. Because all y'all say it, you're like, oh my God. Like the second you have a kid, your whole life changes. You'll never be the same again.
And it's like the most common comment that I always hear is like the moment you look at your baby for the first time, because like all of these kind of insecurities of being able to, and again, Kramer doesn't have kids, I don't have kids, so we're both just speaking off of what others have shared with us. And I think that's probably the most common thing that I hear is like, I don't know if like anyone ever really feels ready to be a parent, but it's like when you see your child, you're like,
I'm doing it.
Yeah.
It's go time. So like that like started to stress me out because I guess my biggest fear now, because now I'm like, okay, that's it. I'm going to go be a dad.
Okay, so hang on a second. So you're sitting there and you're crying and the song's playing and you're like, I want to be a dad now.
Yes.
So that's what the moment was.
That was the moment.
And you've never felt more
felt more compelled about anything.
And I've never wanted it that much before.
Like, this is what I want to do. Here's my fear. Now, let me tell you my fear. Is that this is literally, I just get emotionally moved by one moment of a show, and now I'm like going to change my whole entire life to like get a kid. I don't know. Because, I mean, some of my guy friends have kids. But I just don't know if most guys like knew from birth. Because like Jess, you said from a kid you wanted to be a mom, right?
Yes.
And like, so there was never really a question.
Yes.
My fear is, and this is honestly in true vulnerability, is I'm afraid that like maybe this is just a phase. Like, do most guys know from birth that they wanted to be dads?
Or is there a possible transition, or like do you grow into that feeling, or maybe when you meet the person that you want to be with, then that feeling occurs?
Maybe that's it. Andre.
Yes.
When did you realize you wanted to be a dad, Andre?
I was in my early teens, maybe 15, 16, and I knew I needed to have two boys. My dad wasn't around, and I wanted to do everything with them that I never got to do.
Wow.
See, this is my fear, is because with you, literally, like you knew.
I mean, it's not
at
like
that age.
Yes, he was like around early teens, but his situation, it came from an experience of him wanting to kind of create that with his own sons. You know what I mean?
Hey, Anthony from Dundalk, good morning.
Good morning.
So when did you realize you wanted to be a dad?
It was actually after I joined the military. Right out of high school. Like, in high school, I was like completely against. I was like, I'm never having kids.
Right.
And then I joined the military, and on deployment, we got into some sticky situations, and it was like one of those moments where they say your life flashes before your eyes. It kind of just snapped. And when I got back, and I was like, this is what I want to be.
Do you think you could possibly have that same moment while watching a musical in New York? I think it's like a little. I think it's a little different. My life wasn't necessarily
like,
flashing.
What the hell is going on?
Flashing before my eyes. Like I hear you, and I'm like, wow, that's.
But Anthony, when you say your life was flashing before your eyes, did you have a feeling of like, this is something I'm missing out on? Is that why you kind of came to that realization?
It's like I looked back and then like thought about what I've done so far. And then that was what was missing.
Hey, Dylan from Fort Meade, good morning.
Good morning.
So the conclusion that I'm starting to come to is that just from pulling from different guys, and we're hearing Dylan's story off the air, is I don't know that a lot of guys have this innate urge, and this makes me actually feel a little bit better, to like have kids from birth. You know, Dylan, what were you telling me?
I kind of can relate to Andre's story where I didn't really grow up with a father in the household, but I never really just knew from birth, like, hey, I'm going to be a dad, I'm going to be a great one. But I always did know that if I had one, that I would provide better for them than my father did for myself and my brother.
But it was never like this huge urge priority for you to be like, oh my God, I can't wait
to get married and have kids.
A lot of women
stuff.
do that, right? So I just
Definitely.
What was a turning point then? When were you finally like, okay, I'm going to do this then?
Well, my high school sweetheart, I had been with her for like 6 years, and it brought up multiple times, and one day it just happened, and we found out that she was pregnant. And right then and there, a light switch flipped in my head, and I knew that I was all in. You know, it was going to be an adventure and a roller coaster, and I was super excited for it.
So it was not until you met your partner though that you realized,
or that you guys were in a situation where you had no choice but to step up. Really,
Right.